Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm Devin Decker, talking real fast for some reason. I think it's because I just found out I'm not going to be on the Gilmore Girls reboot. They were trying to do like the Billmore Boys, and I applied to play Lorelai's die staff counterpart. It didn't work. Siegen, are you there? You just let me spin my wheels.
In my life? Are you the Melissa McCarthy in my life? Is that what this is?
I guess I would be Melissa McCarthy. I wouldn't be. I don't said
Yes.
Lorelai. No, I'd be Cookie or Suki.
No, yes.
Because it's like we can't just call her Cookie. What if we put an S in front of it, and then she's Suki?
Oh God.
Gilmore Girls.
Speaking of way deeper than I'd like to be.
Yeah, that joke went way deeper than I wanted it to. I've watched exactly one episode of the Gilmore Girls, and the only thing I could think is, why do people think they talk fast? Like, what the fuck?
Because at the time nobody cared to watch anybody that was watching Aaron Sorkin was not the same group watching Gilmore Girls. That is the plain solid truth. Everybody was so amazed by Gilmore Girls writing because they had honestly never watched Aaron Sorkin show before.
Yeah, I didn't watch Sportsnight. It was too good to be funny. And then The West Wing, politics on a Sunday night.
Oh God! Oh
all right,
man!
So restarting the intro.
Devin,
I'm Devin Decker.
Yeah, yeah, and you wanted to, and I'm Siegen Sarwick. Blah blah blah. I'm sorry, but Devin's really started this one off with a doozy, and like 2 seconds before you hit record was like, "Oh, by the way, we're starting off with disappointments." And then, don't worry, I'm in a good mood though. And then here we are. So.
Well, yeah, because I wanted to get them like out of the way real quick. All right, so house cleaning. This is going to be the last talk of Brendan Fraser History Month for 2018. We said we were going to talk about trust, but Siegen's life has changed for the better. I don't know if it's been changed for good, but it's been changed for the better.
No, definitely for good.
Oh, by the way, that's why this episode's called The Wicked Report. How many subtle little references can he jam in? Count along at home, and then tweet us, and then at us with how many references you got.
Man, you could telegraph a joke so well.
Oh, sorry. So I was gonna watch Trust, but the whole world got turned upside down, and it didn't feel right to pass judgment on Trust without watching the entire series first. So that was my plan for today. My plan was
which
to
is one of the
down.
I think that fits right in line with one of the main tenets of Brendan Fraser History Month is don't judge it until you've seen it.
That's very true.
Brendan Fraser, if there was ever a man with a career, like don't judge it until you've seen it. Like that's every one of his movies.
Dude, like Encino Man, like, oh god, cavemen, fuck off, and it's like, no, it's actually pretty good. It touches on some real deep moments of
It is
the
honestly
90s.
It is honestly the only Pauly Shore movie worth keeping in history.
Oh no,
like,
come on, son-in-law. Only because Link from Encino Man shows up. But yeah, so my plan today, my plan today was to sit down and watch the entirety of Trust. And that didn't happen because yesterday, the day before today, I got up at 7 a.m., I left my house, and I literally just drove around getting into adventures. Until
as you want to do on a bored day off.
Until 6 p.m. at night when I walked back in my house. And then
if
more
any
adventure happened.
To believe.
Yeah, and it was good. And then we watched American Housewife. The last episodes of American Housewife. Watch American Housewife. That's the recommendation. Wait,
was it like a series finale?
No, it was a season finale.
Just the season, okay. I thought so. I thought they were doing okay.
So even though I just got back from vacation with my parents, they're leaving for vacation tomorrow. So we had 6 episodes of American Housewife, 5 episodes of Life in Pieces, and 6 episodes of Superior Donuts. And we're watching them as a family. So this past week has been like binge-topia at Decker Base 13. We have watched so much TV, and it's good, like it's real good. So that's why it's like, and the cherry on top of binge-topia will be Trust. So I had this whole day driving around yesterday. I woke up this morning at 6 o'clock, fully intending to watch Trust. Dale's car broke down. Apparently, it going for 11 hours yesterday, just like, no, fuck you.
Oh, no.
So she's driving to work, and then she's like, I'm in the parking ride. I need a ride to work.
Oh, God.
So that sort of threw a wrench in initially, and then I got home, right? Like I took her there, and we brought her car over to get looked at, and I'm sitting at home, and it's like, all right, now the first episode of Trust, and I watched the first episode of Trust, and I'm not gonna lie, it's interesting, but Brendan Fraser does not really like play into the first episode. He has 2 scenes where he is fucking electric. Like, and he like says 3 words, but he like totally commands the room. So you know that he's like that quiet Chinese guy in the corner that Homer's all excited about. Like, you know he's gonna do something, and I don't want to miss it. But that didn't happen in the first episode. And then after the first episode, I found myself comparing it too much to All the Money in the World.
Okay.
So it's like, this is not fair to this show. Because all I'm doing is making comparisons right now because the other one is so fresh in my mind.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you're holding it up against what we know to be an Oscar-winning film, so it's really hard to sit, especially because as much as you want to compare the two for obvious reasons, you can't, because of the most obvious reason, television and media and film are just 2 different things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sitting in a movie theater to watch something for 3 hours is very different than sitting down 1 day a week for the next, God knows, what is it, 10 episodes?
Yeah, well, you want to, like, and the other thing is that, like, maybe if I were doing it weekly, I would have been able to, like, divorce myself from it because I'd have that, like, 7-day buffer to talk through what I just saw. But, like, to sit down and binge it, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, especially because All the Money in the World, it was a pretty tight film. Like, it was not long. And, like, the length of the first episode is almost the runtime of All the Money in the World.
Oh, man. Oh, geez.
So it's like, okay, kind of difficult for me to get excited about it. But I will say this. I'm going to watch Trust. There's always a Brendan Fraser History Month next year. So we will, and then that'll give Siegen time to see it, to experience it. So we're both coming at it from a informed location.
You want to hear the craziest thing?
Yeah.
We could even talk about it and it not have to be Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, that's very true, right?
Like, yeah, that's
but,
the other
but
thing.
it's one of those things where, like, we can come at it from, like, giving it a little bit of time to, like, cool off from All the Money in the World so it's not happening, like, simultaneously in my mind. Like, literal scenes, I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is how they did this scene in All the Money in the World. And it's like, that's not fun for me. It makes it feel like work.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, like, feather in the fucking hat for talking about John Paul Getty's harem. Like, the big thing that they're like, yeah, he has a fucking harem. Like, just 4 women. And he walks in, and, like, all 4 of them are just sitting there reading fucking magazines, and he touches one on the shoulder and goes, 20 minutes. And it's like, okay. And it's like getting the golden fucking ticket because they're going to the chocolate factory.
Oh, man.
I almost grossed myself out with that.
Yeah, it kind of got me too, man.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing.
Okay,
God,
but I mean, but that's a good way to leave. But this is a good way to leave Brendan Fraser History Month, right? Like a recommendation for all, including the 2 of us. We haven't had that in a while, right?
That's very true.
This is awesome. Like, we're gonna have something to do this year that's gonna be fresh and new, and we'll get to talk about next year, or maybe even before then.
Or even before then, exactly. If it comes down to it. But that's where we're not going to talk about Trust. We're officially closing the book on Brendan Fraser History Month. Thank you very much for everybody you played, especially Kevin. Those quizzes were awesome. And
yes.
if anyone out there ever has a quiz for us, Siegen loves having a quiz given to him. He really does. Like, these are the texts I get at 3 a.m. in the morning. Is like, man, I wish you had a quiz to give me right now. And I'm like,
right now,
buddy,
please.
I am sleeping. What are you doing?
Ask me questions slowly.
Make sure it's multiple choice.
Oh, God.
Dude, what are you doing? I'm trying to sleep. So if you have them, send them to @thesayReport. Actually, send them to thesayReport@gmail.com and make sure you put in the subject line who you want to take the quiz. Because as much as Siegen likes taking a quiz, he'll also administer one. So
yeah.
And that's always fun for us because it breaks it up. It gives us something else to do, and I love doing it for you. So if you got something, put it together, and we will try to not look like idiots and fail miserably. Speaking of trying not to look like an idiot and failing miserably, the other disappointment is I am out of the Link to the Past spring tournament.
Aww.
It's it happens that way. I went 4-3. So I had a net positive record in this tournament. I felt pretty good about that. And I'm still in like the top third of performers in the game. So like that feels
all
pretty
right.
good based on that. Like being above the 150 mark, it's like, yeah, okay. Maybe I'm not wasting my time. But the beautiful thing is that has opened up the doorway to another video game, which we'll talk about once we close the door on the disappointment time. Because the last disappointment time is, and I just need to share it because it literally was the thing I read before I got the text from you saying we need to record tonight. And that is, there was apparently an issue with the algorithm that placed the items in Link to the Past randomizer. So that if you generated a bunch of seeds before your race, it would be putting like high value items would always wind up in the same location. So you've played a little bit of it, but for like everybody at home. So like the chest in Sanctuary, that this is just an example. I have no idea about this. The first I heard about it was the big announcement they made to everybody who took place in the tournament, just so they're aware that it's been found and it's been fixed. So like say that was always getting the bow. Like you'd open up the Sanctuary chest and you'd get the bow. Because of the way the algorithm was working, if you generated a bunch of seeds beforehand and the bow wound up in the Sanctuary, there'd be like a high chance that the bow would be in that chest in your race ROM. Like, am I making sense?
Yeah, so how does this help somebody?
So the way is that like so people could know like the chests to go for. So like if like the bow's in the Sanctuary, I'm going to make sure that that's my priority because the bow.
Or I know I've hit the ice rod. I know I hit the ice rod that's been in this specific place every time the last 5 times, or like at least once or twice the last time that I played. I should go check there for the ice rod because it might be in this seed.
Yes, now that I know that Turtle Rock is required to be beaten in the seed, and I know that the ice rod has a good chance of showing up in like the Bottle Kid's house.
This is the shit that gets me about all of this seed stuff, man, that I fucking love, right? Is like this minute stuff that pops up, and this is why I could never truly program something. As much as I feel like I could learn to, I don't think that I could ever sit down and like create something in a program, because the idea that you have to pay attention to such small details, because fucking domino effect wise, they can just completely destroy this entire like concept of the seed is just insane to me. Like, how long did this go on that before anybody noticed?
That's the thing. That's the thing that puts it in the complaints and disappointment section of this particular episode of the Say Report. Is like, because you're right. Because I always joke about like the seeds are becoming sentient, because as the tournament goes on, we're still in the same version of the algorithm and everything. But it's like there seem to be more where like you don't have a mirror for the entire game, or you don't have boots for the entire game. So it's like it's becoming sentient, and it knows that like these are things that people need. I'm going to hide them in places they're not going to go. So it's just one of those things. But the reason why it's in the complaints and disappointment part of the episode is based on all accounts, it seems like people knew about this for a while and used it to exploit and gain victories in the tournament. And
well, it's a question about responsibility. Like, who, like, do you feel like these people were responsible for reporting this? Is that what the problem is? Do you feel like they kind of failed?
I don't feel. Personally, the only thing that I feel about it is it sucks that, like, this is the thing that I hate about this competitive stuff, and it's the stuff that I never really think of. Ever. Like, it would never even enter into my mind. Like you said, I like that thought where it's like, so maybe the reason there were so many mirrorless seeds was because the mirror kept getting put on the pedestal and you could complete the game without going to the pedestal.
Right.
Like that's just the way that it happened to work out. And like that's the stuff that I like. I like, oh, that's cool. That's like an intricacy of programming. That's something that they need to fix for the next version. But it's a cool little thing that like happens because, I mean, for all intents and purposes, an algorithm is alive because like, it's ever changing and it's reacting to how itself it acts and how things interact with it. So that's very interesting to me. So I'm looking at it purely from like a statistician sort of like scientific thing. But then like you see this post go out and it's like, and I have no proof of this, so nothing will be done, but it is my belief that people were using this in order to, gain an unfair advantage in the tournament. and that is why we are fixing it before the next stage of the tournament. And I'm like, I would have never even considered that. And it's like, because it's just me having fun, right? Like, I'm doing it to pass the time. Like, there's no money to be made or anything like that. It's just me sitting down, getting to play a video game and see if I can beat it as fast as possible.
Yeah, there's another way to look at this, though. You know, and as much as there are definitely deplorable people out there, and I'm not going to deny that there's a good chance that the people that were probably caught, but like, it's not enough evidence to out them to everybody, so you just kind of just fix it and move on, right? Like, I'm sure that's the situation. That's what it sounds like, at least. But anyway, like, there's always this chance that like, to some people, that's just part of the seed. Like, the fact that they figured out that it does that. Because to me, like, I think about the speedrunners, right? And the idea that when I first started like watching speedruns and getting into the idea of speedrunning, and God, if I could ever actually do it myself, that would be amazing. But for now, I'll just be an observer on the side. But like watching dudes do speedrunning, when I first started, it didn't always sit with me really well when people would use glitches and stuff to get through things. You know, like it was kind of something that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like I was like, yeah, okay, but this guy's not playing the game. He's cheating his way through, essentially, was the next thought, right? But my thoughts on that have evolved over the years, like for sure. Like the idea of considering glitches and glitching through stuff, cheating, has kind of really gone to the wayside for me, especially because we live in a world now where, like, you know, games come out day one, they need patches, right? Like games always need to be fixed in some fashion. So there's always glitches, and some glitches have been found to be so subtle that you don't consider them cheating. Like I'm thinking of any fighting game out there where they have to nerf a character after so long because they realize stats wise that it's just a little too powerful. Well, I wouldn't negate anybody's wins before that character was nerfed, because they were just playing with the game as it was, and they just realized like this character is capable of more, right? I wouldn't blame them for using what they consider to be the strongest character, especially because somebody else might have a different feeling. But stats, it reads out a different way, so you got to kind of always play that game of just like, well, the stats say that this thing is overpowered and shouldn't be used because it's that overpowered, but it is something that was always in the game and everybody's using, so who cares, kind of? Like, it becomes a really interesting conversation for that stuff for me. So, like, as much as I do want to jump on somebody that's using a cheat to get through a tournament, like, fuck that for sure, but if there's not really a malicious intent behind it, like, there's always a chance that somebody was just using the seed and using that glitch because it's just part of it. And I mean, you're already using seeds. Well, like, is it that hard to imagine the next step of somebody thinking like glitches also qualifying for all of this stuff?
Right.
How many of you guys use like bomb jump glitches and things like that?
Exactly. You're right. Like using the fact that like if you are pushing a block and you activate the mirror, the block disappears. And that cuts off time on like any block pushing thing. You're not wrong, and I 100% agree with you. And that's why, like, because it used to be an issue with me, but then as I got deeper into speedrunning, seeing the fact that like there are glitchless runs as well, like categories, like that has solved that problem. It's really like the reason why it disappoints me is not the fact that it exists, and it's not the fact that that it's not the fact that it exists. It's not the fact that people used it that way, right? Because it's just intelligence, right? It's playing the game, you notice something and you used it to your advantage.
Right, exactly.
Where it starts to bother me is that like vilification of these people. Like you didn't get a chance to read it. If we were recording tomorrow, I probably would have sent you the thing just so you could read it. And you can see that like you can tell like there's some real anger on the part of the poster at being like, I feel like this was found and it was deliberately kept from us so that it could be used as an exploit. And it's like, yeah, on some ways, but at the other time, like, it could just be like, oh, I figured this out and I'm going to use it. And like even thinking about it, you have no guarantee that it's going to work that way. Like, what if you hit that magic number in generating your seeds leading up to it, so that the next seed generates and the value item is not where it had been in those seeds beforehand? Like, because it is an algorithm, it's something that you can't really quantify that way.
I know, and it also might be giving some of these people, these quote-unquote villains, a little too much credit intelligence-wise to assume that they even realized what they were doing. Like, maybe it's just some kid sitting at home thinking, I don't know why, but the ice rod's always in this box, so I'm just going to go for that box. Plain and simple. It's just the thought in his head. It wasn't a malicious thought. It didn't even occur to him that it shouldn't be happening. He doesn't understand programming. All he knows is that when he plays this fucking thing, that's always there, right? At the end. Like, no, like why would he say anything? Why would he tell anybody?
What really but I think the other side of it is what really bothers me and what really gets under my skin is that I wonder if like people thought that I was one of these people who did it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, and by not naming
vagary
people,
of it, right? Like,
right, by not naming people, he's cast out on everybody.
And it's like, and I hate that I think that way. And it's just like, that's not what this was about for me. Like earlier in the tournament, there was like a whole thing about like, if you think that somebody is cheating, report it to an admin. Do not freaking like put them on blast in this Discord. That's not what it's about. And it's like, what? I think what the other thing that makes me sad is, and I'm not like, I'm not trying to pass judgment or cast aspersions on anybody, but like, I enjoy playing The Legend of Zelda. I like competing in it. I have fun with it, but I have other things going on in my life. And it like,
not that this podcast would let you know, but
shut up, man. No, I do, right?
Yeah.
No, it's like,
I know. It's just
like that these people
this
take
is just
it
a check-in
so
for everybody listening at home.
seriously that they got to give a scarlet letter to somebody because someone said they're a cheater. Like, it's just like, it's the kind of stuff that makes me just want to turn my back on the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it bums me out that those things still are happening.
Yeah, man. Well, culturally, this is something we're going to have to get used to. Esports is slowly becoming a bigger and bigger thing, you know, and we're going to have to get used to the fact that that is going to mean that there's going to be a competitive spirit applied to gaming that we've never had before, you know, or that we've witnessed and always blown off as being a minority. Someday this shit's going to be the majority. Like, this is going to be the way that people look at things now. You know, Overwatch and Fortnite have not stopped this thing from growing. And really, it was always there in things of like Call of Duty and that sort of stuff, that really kind of shitty competitive edge that we're just not into. It's just that we always had the choice to not play those games. The thing is now is you're talking about it, that it's such a pervasive thing that it's coming to the games that we play, you know?
Yeah, like I'm thinking about like the nerds of the future being like, yeah, I don't play Fortnite and stuff, like the same way they'd be like, I'm not into football. Like, that's weird. You're right though. Like, that is totally where it's going.
Yeah.
God, I didn't even think of it. And also, just to address the thing you were talking about like games having glitches and them getting fixed and speedrunners exploiting them, that is one of my biggest fucking issues with modern gaming. I'm going to point at Cuphead, because Cuphead was a game that that came out, I beat it, and like speedrunners found a huge exploit to beat that game very, very quickly. And then like, oh, we're going to patch the game, and they took that out. And I'm like, would they have taken that out if people were not speedrunning it and using that? Or would it have just been something that existed? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you completely changed what this game was to people.
Yeah. At some point, it becomes a question of authorship, right? Like, the way that people play these games, it kind of becomes their version of that game, and who has the right to do that stuff. But that's why people go out there and they pass around ports of like vanilla World of Warcraft and stuff like that, right? Like, there's versions out there of these games pre-patched. There's all those. Remember all that shit went down with was it Arkham? One of the Arkham games where the patch was actually killing the game. Oh, you and I talked about this with Arkham City, at least. It was Arkham Knight was the one that was screwed up, but Arkham City is the one that you were talking about, where like playing it pre-patched so that it didn't have stuff added to it or taken away, like all of this other stuff that people make these attempts to do that because of this exact question, right? But I don't know, man. I mean, like,
it's just
there's something to be said for like artist intent, right? They didn't intend people to play it that way, so they took it out. But also at that point, it's out in the world, man. Like, you've introduced it to people. How much can you actually really take away?
But I did want to just give you like a thank you, because one of the things that they did with the Cuphead is they nerfed the charge shot. They made it so it did less damage. And the charge shot was what I had used to beat the game. And I kind of felt like invalidated when they took it away and they said, like, we made it more powerful than we meant. And I'm like, I only liked it because it reminded me of fucking Mega Man. Yeah. I wasn't like, oh, it's super strong. I'm like, no, it's like Mega Man. And that's how I wanted to play this game, was like Mega Man.
Also, screw you guys. At some point, I want to be able to just be powerful in that game. Like, I think as much as I love a game that challenges me in the way that game challenges me, I also love that moment when you break that game. And so screw you guys for taking that moment away from so many people.
So happy that you said that, because I'm ready to transfer to happy things now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start with the first
Wait, where's my Pharrell hat? Where's my Pharrell hat? Okay, wait, I'm happy.
Because he's happy, clap along if you feel like CJ really put on a hat.
Oh, you know I didn't. All right, let's do this thing. Happy things.
All right, so happier things. Dark Souls Remastered came out, and I was super excited about Dark Souls Remastered, and then my own jealous girlfriend meme happened.
Uh-oh.
And that is they announced that Bloodstained Curse of the Moon was coming out the same day.
Oh, man.
So, like, literally, I did one. I was like, it's the first time, like, this is the first time a meme is appropriate for me, where I put me holding Dark Souls because I had it pre-ordered, and then, like, walking away was Curse of the Moon. Because I'm like, oh, I want Bloodstained. Luckily, it's not Ritual of the Night, which is the big Kickstarter game that is, like, the successor to Symphony of the Night. Like, is the big one. What Curse of the Moon is just, like, a bonus retro-style Bloodstained game that, honestly, it is just to the left of copyright infringement of Castlevania 3. Like, down to the fact that, like, you play as a girl with a whip, an old guy with a staff, and fucking Alucard. He's Alucard. He throws bats as weapons. He turns into a bat. And then there's, like, a swordsman who, like, kind of Grant-esque, but not really. And he's the main character. So, like, this game came out, and I'm like, I'm not going to get it. I'm going to wait. I'm going to do Dark Souls. I'm going to finish God of War. I'm not going to get this game. And then fucking Wednesday, Rhode Island shut the fuck down. It took me 2 hours to get home on Wednesday. I still don't know why. I still don't know why my normal 30-minute commute turned into 2 hours of me on the highway.
Jesus.
Like,
Jesus.
Like, from what I've gathered, but it still sounds like fucking old wives' tales, there was a sinkhole on 195 in East Providence. And just, like, the
You're
way
welcome.
And just, like, the way that the roads are constructed in Rhode Island, it broke everything. Yeah, it was.
Oh my god.
So I'm just like, really? Like, fuck.
It's all intricate web, man. One piece breaks, the entire machine breaks down. I'm telling you.
It's crazy. It's insane. It's the machine. Siege gets
State of Rhode Island is the machine. All
so
right, anyway.
I am just in, like, the worst mood, and I get home, and I'm like, fuck it. I'm getting this game. It's $10. Like, I'm trying not to eat my feelings anymore, so now I'm just gonna buy video game my feelings.
Nice.
So I pick up Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, and I sit down to play it, and it is, like, 100% Castlevania 3, which is, like, sort of the best of the original Castlevanias. It's just got the depth of everything. And I played through it, and I finish it in an hour and a half. And I'm like, oh, I kind of feel bad. Because, like, I don't usually care, like, about the length of a game, but I was hoping for, like, a little bit more to sink my teeth into. But that unlocked Nightmare Mode. So I play Nightmare Mode, and I talked about the characters, right? You got the swordsman, whip girl, old dude, Alucard. And the Nightmare Mode is like, oh, yeah, you don't have the swordsman. You know that character that you didn't want to use anyway? You don't have access to him. Try to beat the game. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Why wouldn't I be able to do that?
You gave me Alucard. I win this game.
Exactly. Actually, you gave me Whip Girl, and her whip is far longer than any Belmont's. Not that it's the size that matters, but, like, it's nice to be able to stay a good distance away from something and hit it with your whip. Like, honestly,
also,
now that I'm thinking about
pretty good with it.
now that I'm thinking about it, it makes no sense that the Belmonts fight with whips. Because they're so short. They're so tiny. It's like a whip is a distance weapon. All right, I'm going to get real close to you and hit you with this whip. It's going to hurt.
Oh, God.
So then you play through Nightmare Mode. And it's like, so, like, the bosses are a little bit harder and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, cool. So here's some spoilers, though, for Bloodstained Curse of the Night. If you're going to, Curse of the Moon, if you're going to play it, I don't want to, like, ruin anything for you. But after you beat Nightmare Mode, it talks about the fact that, like, he needed these people in order to get there. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to try playing the game again because it comes to the point after you beat the level and you approach them that you have to talk to them to get them to join your team. Mm-hmm. So the first time I'm playing after I've done these two things and I've gotten the message about, like, allies were important to this. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to play through and I'm going to see if, like, what happens if I don't talk to them. And in fact, I actually, like, ended up attacking the first girl, and it was the whip girl, and I killed her. but I got a new power for killing her.
Oh.
Like, it gave me the ability to do, like, a downward slash. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So I played through and killed all of my allies, and each one of them gave me a special power, like a double jump and a dash. So then, suddenly this fucking swordsman, he ain't a piece of garbage anymore.
Fuck.
So I'm like, all right, cool. So you beat the game that way, and that unlocks ultimate mode, where you play through. It's the difficulty of the bosses from nightmare mode, but the swordsman has all of those powers, but you can still choose to pick up the allies or kill them. Or third thing I find out, you can just walk by them, and you don't kill them.
You didn't even have to kill them. But you don't get the powers.
But you won't get the powers, exactly.
Okay.
And ultimate mode also adds, as we mentioned from Cuphead time, a fucking charge attack. So it's like friggin' Mega Man. And like, I'm like, oh, so you made all the bosses harder, but you gave me an ability to fight them faster. And it's just like, and the second I found that charge attack, I'm like, this broke the game for me. I just broke the game, because you give me a charge attack in any game, I'm going to exploit it to the fullest extent of the attack.
Right.
So a game that, like, so it was a $10 game, and like after I first beat it, I'm like, oh, it was all right. I don't know if I'd recommend it to anybody, because first of all, you need to be a Castlevania person. Yeah. And I've never really like consider myself a Castlevania person. And then I think about the time that Will like watched me compete in a like just a random thing, and he's like, when I saw that Castlevania was one of the games, I'm like, so Devin's gonna win. I don't need to watch. so I guess that thought of me is out there. Like I am so it's a Castlevania game, so I'm already going to be on board. I watched you
break into somebody else's PS3 and purchase a copy of, I'm pretty sure, Symphony of the Night on it, and play through the majority of it one night at a party.
Yeah, well, shit, I did do that.
Yeah, you kind of been into Castlevania for a while, man.
Yes. Oh my god, I can't believe you were. Oh, I'm so happy that someone was there. That's my story, because I don't tell my Symphony of the Night stories. Because, like, there was a time where I got way into Symphony of the Night. Like, it was the first time that I beat Symphony of the Night.
That is the one with the realization about Alucard at the end, right? Like, the big reveal that he's... Or do we already know by Symphony of the Night?
You know by Symphony of the Night, because he is going to finally take down his father.
Okay, so it must be Castlevania 2 with the big revelation at the end when when basically he looks at his name in a mirror and he's just like, wait a minute.
It's a joke ending of Castlevania 3.
For all intents and purposes, he suddenly realizes what his name really is. Okay, is that what it is?
It's Castlevania 3. But yeah, so Symphony of the Night, I was staying with a friend in Jersey City, and you got nothing to do in Jersey City, New York. I mean, New Jersey, New York. I mean, you call it New York because basically it's New York. Like, you throw a rock and you hit New York, but it's still New Jersey. We are technically in New Jersey. I give up. Wasn't a catch. So I was staying there, and just like, we didn't really have anything to do. And they're like, have you ever played Castlevania Symphony of the Night? I'm like, everybody always tries to get me to play this game. No. It's like, because it's part of the 97-3, right? 1997, you got Final Fantasy VII, you got Ocarina of Time, and you have Symphony of the Night. Like, those are the games that, like,
changed history, and they all did it the same
really.
Year. Yeah.
So I've always like kind of like cast aspersions on that game, because it's like and they're like, maybe you should just try it. And I played through it like that night, and then like I immediately started it up again and played through it again. And then I got home and I had my PSP, and I'm like, I'm going to buy the game that allows me to play Symphony of the Night, the Dracula X Chronicles.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I played it through on my PSP, and then like I would go to people's houses, and they would have PS3s, and if they had it, I would just play through the game and give them a clear file on their PS3. I did that at like parties, and like I had people watching me at one of them. But you're right. And then like one, I'm like, yeah, I jailbroke a PS3, downloaded Symphony of the Night, and beat it. And I'm so happy that I have a witness to that, because like all I think of is like my Super Mario World story, where like I'm so happy that I have witnesses to that one, because I have like a bunch of witnesses to that one. But that like beautiful week and a half of Symphony of the Night being my life.
And I feel like we need to clarify something here. We talk a lot about how we used to go to parties and you would like play video games, or like I would like break into people's like rooms to like play their N64s and shit. But like you have to understand the kind of parties we all went to. Everybody was doing that stuff. I mean, Rock Band had just come out, right? And like Rock Band was a huge thing. Guitar Hero too. Like everybody was like into playing these types of games at parties. So like every party we went to, there was a system around because that's what all of our friends did, right? It's not like it's not like we were showing up at people's houses with video game systems when they were trying to throw a rager and we were just like, "Where's your TV, guys?" Like this is just kind of the stuff that everybody around us was doing,
like,
right?
Here's the thing. First of all, we were not dressed in
but...
matching suits going, we would like to play. We never did that. Like
that's not
what. Well, we
had suits.
we did it that one time, but that was cool. That was a cool time that we did that because it was in an auditorium. We should not have done that. Like,
no,
think
we
about
saved that
like,
prom. We saved that prom.
Yeah. So that is true. But like, you also need to understand. You hear these stories about us. Like, we went to a party and we played video games. We were probably still the coolest people at that party.
We were. I mean, you know, no, the cool kid was the kid running from upstairs screaming about how the peanut butter was a monster. That was the coolest kid at the party.
Yes, that's okay. But like, so like top three, right? Like, yeah, no. And that's just one of those things. So yeah, so this game, Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon, it's so good. But again, you do need to be a Castlevania person. But I think about what you're saying, where like you broke the game, and I literally broke that game, and it felt so good when I did.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic reward, you know, and I think to put a nice little bow on some video game talking, I finished up Breath of the Wild this week.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, thanks, man. 120 shrines, got all the shrines in the main game, and like so fully upgraded. I had a bunch of really cool different armor suits. I'd done a lot of the like monster side quests and things. All in all, I think I put 110 hours into that game. And they do a pretty good job of pretty much letting you be the most OP's Link ever by like the last 30 hours of that game. You know, you hit a point where there are a few enemies that are still pretty tough. Like they do a really good job of still giving you a challenge, so it's worth getting that powerful. But they don't make them part of the mainline story. So really, like 50 hours in, I was like, oh, I could totally win this thing, but why would I? There's all this other crap going on. So they gave me a whole bunch of cool stuff to do for another 50 or 60 hours. But man, breaking games, like I've never felt so good about being so like powerful. And so I would walk up to shrines, and when I first started that game, there's these level of shrines called major tests of strength that I would just nope the fuck out of the second I got into. For the first couple of hours I was playing this game, I showed up and won once, and I got like one hit killed, and I was like, well, clearly this isn't for me. And so being able to then go back to those later on and just walk in and just like one swipe kill some guardians was pretty fucking awesome. You know, eat myself a nice like stamina meal, a nice mighty meal, jump in the air and do some slow motion bomb fire arrows at people's heads. Like like you just feel and the idea that I felt like that in a Zelda game is mind-blowing to me, like ridiculously mind-blowing to me. Yeah, man. So like just an example of a good way that like games take advantage of that, like letting you break them. And so to see a game like Cuphead, to go back to that really quick, that saw a game breaker that was discovered, I mean, I guess kind of early on in its life, but really like people weren't, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like it wasn't destroying the experience for people like they made it sound when they took it out, right? Because whenever they remove that stuff, it should be for the good of the game. And so clearly they felt like it wasn't good for the game that it was in there. But I don't know, man. Cuphead, if any game out there, should have let me feel overpowered at some point. Cuphead's the one.
It still takes skill to do it. Like, you still, like, the first time that you pull off and I guess I'll talk about what the exploit is. Because, first of all, there's some things that they did fix that, like, good for you, those should have been fixed. Like, there were floating hitboxes for, like, most of the enemies. So, like, even when they weren't on screen, you could shoot at, like, a pixel on screen. And not really a pixel, but, like, you could shoot at a location and damage the boss. So it's like, okay, so that's, like, a problem. That was like you did a cheap programming there. You hope nobody would find it, and they found it. Cleaning that up, I get. But what the exploit was is, because they let you do your controller however you want. a bunch of people put the fire button on the triggers, which makes sense. We talked about that with like how God of War did that. Because that's how games
And I mean,
are
it just
played
feels
now.
and it feels kind of natural in a weird way. Like the idea that you pull back on a trigger in order to fire your gun hand it makes sense.
Yeah. So then the button that was being used for firing, people were making the switch weapon button, and if you like just held down the fire button and continued switching between the two weapons, you could get like the benefits of two weapons on like every shot. So your DPS would go up. And then like you had like two weapons, the lobber and like it's like a boomerang. I can't think of what it's actually called. And if you held and used those two things, the DPS would just be so high that you could annihilate everything within like a minute. But you still needed to like avoid getting hit and not dying. And there were still like that's an exploit for like the ones that are not in vehicles, because there are vehicle fights too where no exploit like that existed. So you still had to have like I don't get it. It's just one that gets under my skin, and like especially with Dark Souls coming out, like it's sitting in the back of my head because like Dark Souls was a game I was playing, I put aside, and then when I went back, everything that I had used had been removed from the game. I've talked about that before. We do not need to revisit it. So it's just one of those things. And I'm going to tell a sad Breath of the Wild story right now. It's sad. It's not angry or disappointing. When I first got to Hyrule Castle to fight against Ganon, like the climb up to it, I totally did not go the way that the game expects you to.
I will say the game gives you like 6 or 7
It gives you a bunch
routes.
of ways to get in, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't go like there's a door that you can go in, and then like climbing up Hyrule Castle the way that you did it in, I'm going to say like in Ocarina of Time, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I did not do that. So I like approached from like a high ledge and like glided into it. And like I'm feeling so cool. But then I got fucking turned around. So I went down Hyrule Castle.
Oh no.
So I like fought Lynels that I didn't need to fight, and I'm just like I screw you, game. Like this is why I'm finishing you tonight.
Yeah, the maps, especially once you get to the Hyrule Castle stuff, the map can get a little shitty because of the way that it alternates between overworld and then all of a sudden
inside.
Yeah.
It was just,
man.
But that's my fun thing. So congratulations, I'm happy you beat it. You did all the shrines, so like you also get a special medal for that. Because I'm like, homie, don't fucking play that anymore with Zelda games.
Yeah. Nope, got to every single one, man. And I mean, like, I'll be entirely honest. Like, the puzzle ones were fascinating to me. Like, I actually had a really good time with all of the puzzles. And then the ones that were more on the nose, like the fighting ones or the blessings, were like so simple. Like, at a certain point, why the hell wouldn't I if I could also get more stamina or more hearts? You know, like the risk reward was so low on them, it was kind of silly to me not to just keep doing them. Yeah, man. I did all the memories too, so I got the true ending and all that sort of stuff. I did all sorts of goofy stuff with it.
True ending? Why are you gonna tell me that?
There's a little bit of an after credit scene if you retrieve the 13 memories, the 12 that she asks you to in the quest, and then the one more she asks you to get on the back end of that quest, and you get a little after credit scene of just Link and Zelda.
Don't ruin it for me. I don't want to hear it.
What? Yeah, you actually gonna go back and look for it?
No,
That's great.
But I don't want to hear it.
Huh? It's really inconsequential is what I'm getting at. Like, it's a great scene. It's a really great scene. And also, I will say it's inconsequential to anybody who's playing just in it for like playing the really fun game. But like I've talked about before on this show, the way that I got really into this particular one's like story and the way that it really tried to portray the two of them, it is a really big payoff to see this extra scene between the two of them as an epilogue to everything. Yeah, man. I did something else this week. Did we ready to talk about that? Because I think we need to talk about this.
What'd you do this week, Stajan?
Man, I don't know if anybody has seen it yet, but if not, you should go back on my Twitter page at Siegers of the World. You should go and check out. I live tweeted a movie this week, Devin, on a whim. I decided on Wednesday night that I was going to go out, or on Tuesday night I was going to go out Wednesday morning, and go see something. Because there was a censored movie put in theaters this week, Evan, and I will not stand for it. I will not stand for censorship of art. So I thought I needed to go see this thing and see exactly what was going on so that I could talk about how the American public was out of their minds and how dare they ask for an artist to cut their picture in any way. So I decided to go see the recut version of Show Dogs this week.
Now let me tell you something. I was very excited to see Show Dogs. This is a movie where I'm like, I'm all about it. I'm a big fan of Snow Dogs, and I just assumed it was a sequel, despite not featuring Cuba Gooding Jr. in any of the marketing. I'm like, maybe last second reveal, like in Triple X, State of the Union.
No, man, he turned into a dog.
What?
He turned into a dog at the end of Snow Dogs. You remember that? He becomes the ninth husky or something.
He does not turn into a dog. That is Dog-O-Matic.
Oh god.
Featuring Dr. Tom from Being Erica. That is one of those movies. I'm sorry to derail you, but Dog-O-Matic, it was a Wonderful World of Disney movie. The guy gets struck by lightning while walking his dog. They switch bodies, right? Whatever. Oh, life's hilarious. The end of that movie is his girlfriend, who he liked before, right before the movie, before he got turned into a dog. She is walking her dog and gets struck by lightning, and they change bodies. So they're happily ever, but they're fucking both in dog bodies.
Yeah, yep.
And I'm just like, that is not as satisfying. That's like a fucking Goosebumps book ending.
That's it, totally.
Like, that is not
we're
satisfying.
dogs now. I guess we're dogs now.
Guess we're
What's
dogs
the lesson here?
It's like Brother Bear 2. That's another one where, like, he gets turned into a bear and he's going to stay with the thing. So then Mandy Moore, as a Inuit person, goes and looks for him. And then it's like, I'll be a bear too and we'll be a weird bear family. And I'm like, okay, yeah, just give up your humanity.
Is the lesson of that Disney movie is like furries are people too? Like we should respect that these people want to be dogs and have a love life as dogs.
I don't know, man. It's like, it's one of those endings that, like, I guess I'm happy that they're together, but it's also not super satisfying to me.
You know why I'm actually starting to get a little disappointed in this derailment? Because it's making me realize that maybe all dog-based films are really problematic and, like, weirdly about sex, not just show dogs. Because, like, well, Dog-O-Matic is we've got this weird thing. But yeah, so we should talk a little bit about the censorship of the greatest American film ever, Show Dogs.
I mean, it's got Will Arnett in it. We are big Will Arnett fans.
Okay,
why
so,
doesn't he get a month?
Quick rundown. Well, because Will Arnett brings controversy wherever he goes, apparently, and that's really unfortunate for him. It's not even like it's ever his fault. It just seems like everything he touches, there's something wrong with it nowadays. So it's Will Arnett starring in the movie Show Dogs, and just to give you a basic idea of what it is, I say this even in my tweets, is it's a little miscongeniality. At least that's like the basic concept.
That's what I was going to say. It's miscongeniality with dogs.
But it's not enough miscongeniality, because here's something that I never thought I would say about miscongeniality, and God, do I love that movie and its sequel. But miscongeniality understands subtlety in a way that this movie did not. For that movie, for all it has all of its problems, miscongeniality. I mean, like, it actually is quite good and subtle in some of the ways that it, like, does its humor and its jokes about, like, the way that beauty is handled and all that sort of stuff, right? Show Dogs has none of that. It is the thinnest, like, on the nose, every joke is in your face thing, right? Including a joke that had to do. I'm getting into this, Devin, by the way.
Yeah, you totally should. I derailed you. You could talk about it. If I were going to see it, I would have seen it. The fact that I couldn't see the uncensored version in the theater and means that I don't give a damn at this point.
So one of the things in the movie, and I went in, here's what I thought, and then I'll tell you what it actually was. But what I thought was this scene had been cut from the movie in which when the dog in the movie, this is a talking dog movie too, by the way. So Ludacris Bridges. What? Oh my God, I'm all over
Ludacris Bridges.
Thank you.
The reason Fast and the Furious.
You know what it is? I don't know if Chris Johnson listens to this. He's my best friend from high school. But hey, man, you're probably not. But I think of you every time I think of Ludacris. I don't know why.
What?
That's a little Sean. Anyway,
I know, but they were on that one where it's like, take that, rewind it back. Ludacris got the flow to make your booty go.
There it is. Our street cred is instantly back, everybody. Look, no, you know what? Fuck that. Ludacris was just in this fucking talking dog movie, and his whole fucking running joke for it is, okay, so at some point he has to get his manhood checked in order to get checked into the dog show, and it is apparently a very intricate part of the dog show, and so he's really worried about it because he needs to be able to go through with it, but for some reason he's not comfortable with it, so they cut this scene out in which it happens, and he goes to a happy place, and there's apparently this, like, 5-minute psychedelic scene inside this dog's, like, happy place while he gets his balls checked,
Is
right?
is there a little person on a tricycle? Because if
in that scene,
then it's
I imagine there must
the
be.
worst
No,
happy place ever.
I imagine it must be, right. So anyway, so this scene occurs, and a lot of parents felt that it was a weird way to kind of push the idea that, hey, sometimes guys are going to touch your balls, just go to a happy place and ignore it and everything will be okay. And that was the main idea. And so they kind of were up in arms about it, tweeted a bunch about it, conversations get said, to the point where the film, the production company for the film decides that they're going to completely remove that particular scene and recut the movie and just put it out basically minus that scene, right? And like, I have a lot of feelings about this. Like, the first thought was, like, why would you bend to the whim of the mob and all of that other crap? Also, like, why would you dare put a scene in a movie that was so that you feel was so inconsequential that you could remove it on a whim like this? Like, why was that even in the movie to begin with then? Like, who was sitting there thinking, like, this will be great? Like, anyway, all these other thoughts, right? So finally I decided, well, I gotta see this thing. I had no interest in seeing Show Dogs until you cut a scene out of it and then still put the movie out. You've won my attention. Congratulations, right? You didn't even have my interest, and now you have my attention. So I went and I go to see this movie, and I decided, like, if I'm going to do this, I'm at least going to put some merit behind seeing this film besides just my morbid curiosity. So I'm going to live tweet it as well. So anybody that's interested, go back and check last Wednesday again, I believe, and see what I felt about that.
Or just search the hashtag neutered show dogs.
Yeah, hashtag neutered show dogs is what I went under. It was an experience, because I have to say that all things considered, I kind of see the point in being upset with the way that movie portrays this particular thing. Because, Devin, it's not just a scene. It is actually a fucking plot point that this dog goes crazy whenever somebody inappropriately touches him. The idea is that it happens a couple of times, like with like a vet or like something like that, and we see that he has this anger issue problem. So in order to succeed in the dog show, he needs to not get angry at the judges when they check him. So he is actually being straight up groomed, to use the dog term. He is being groomed to be okay with strangers touching him inappropriately and him just dealing with it. And he has to learn to do that in order to succeed in this movie. And it is touched on many times. And I saw the cut version, I will remind you. I saw the one that was missing the 5-minute psychedelic scene. And I will say, didn't even seem like anything was lost there. Like, I had a pretty good idea of exactly when it was going to show up, and it didn't affect the film at all. So again, fuck them for even putting that scene in the first place, right? But man, who the hell thought this was like a good idea? I'm watching this thing. Now, I will also say really quickly, I do not believe that a movie should ever be then censored once it is made. Once art is made and put out into the world, it belongs to the world and you can't touch it. I'm sorry. Now, as an artist, if you want to say to yourself, maybe I don't make an entire plot point about a dog becoming comfortable with a stranger playing with its balls to show to children, right? Like, maybe that's not the thing I put out into the world for everybody to see and consume. Like,
yeah, okay. So I have not seen this movie, and we know that I haven't seen this. I said that like was the start of this conversation, but it feels like if it still is a plot point in the film that you then go see, it feels like the whole movie probably should have just been taken away.
Oh, yeah.
And left to like stagnate the way that Chili Dogs, the Skeet Ulrich answer to Snow Dogs, did. Like, I think so much about films that I have seen that like are just never going to get brought up again because there's such a dearth of films now. Like Words and Pictures. Do you know what Words and Pictures is?
Oh man, I never bothered with it. Like.
Right?
I feel, it was not one I ever really gave much attention to.
They brought it up on Sarah Port Jr., and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a movie I saw. Why did I see that movie? I had a free ticket. I'll answer that. And literally, like, I don't know if you go to, like, GoFobo screenings or anything like that, like, when they, like, give away free tickets to pre-release movies.
The only one I've ever done that for was Scott Pilgrim, and I actually got to do it twice, weirdly, but it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, they're fucking mobbed. Like, they're full of people. Words and Pictures, I got a ticket for that. It was me and the two people I went with.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
I'm like, so that like even indicates more about what this fucking movie is. And it's like one of those things where it's like there's so many things, so it's weird that a movie that has such a, honestly, especially in 2018, like a plot point that like this could be misconstrued, this could be taken the wrong way. Why not just like cut your losses and say like the movie still exists the way that it exists? Especially if as you said, it's such a big plot point.
Yeah, well, so there's a few other feelings that I have about it, and we can talk about it more in depth some other time because, like, it's one of those things where right now the controversy is so big that actually breaking the movie down does nothing. But there's a lot of stuff about this movie that felt like it was very much quick paychecks for people. I once heard somebody discuss the concept of vacation movies, movies that production companies and casts will put together just for the hell of it, for somebody to pay for them to go somewhere nice. The prime example of this being The Tourist with Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie. They also are both producers on that, and a lot of the people involved in that movie are very open about the fact that it gave them an excuse to basically go to Europe and travel around like Venice and stuff for a couple of months. Like it paid for their really nice vacation for 2 months, and they shot for maybe 3 hours a day, right? And they do that kind of shit. And so you watch this movie, and a lot of it, like 90% of it, takes place in Las Vegas, and it's very clearly actually like the deserts of, or at least it's a really nice place in California if it's not Vegas, right? Like, but there's some pretty obvious like on location shooting and things like that. So what the hell, right? You're getting paid to just hang out in really nice casinos and hotel rooms, and yeah, you go and you film these really weird dog scenes that really honestly the people are probably there for like 3 hours a day. The bigger thing comes in with all of the weird voice work and CGI they have to do for all of the animal scenes later, right? So even as like a human actor involved or even a crew member, what are you doing really, right? You steady a camera in one spot on something that's not really there because they're going to CGI a dog in later. You're good. Like, I mean, it's kind of a cushy like concept, right? Like, and that's what this movie felt like through and through. Was just one of those types of movies where like everybody was just like, yeah, this is an easy one to just poop out. And those movies will always come out. I cannot believe that this one made it to theaters and the way that it did. Because like one of the things you always got to remember about a kids movie is doesn't matter how much effort you put in, you're still going to get an audience. So they put this PG movie out. Of course, people were going to come and see it. I mean, that's what happens. Parents bring their kids.
It came out in the first trifecta weekend of 2018 because you had your drama with Book Club, your action with Deadpool, and your kids movie with Show Dogs.
Yeah,
like it was.
Yeah, man. Like they should have realized that people were going to see this thing. Like just because you get to be lazy on a movie doesn't mean that you get to like really drop the ball.
You
want to
be lazy on a fucking kids movie, you drop it in February. That's there's times where you release them. You don't release them in May.
I wonder who paid who in order for this movie to come out in theaters, really, because like this was a straight to DVD affair the entire way. Like I don't mean to be like completely shitty on a film that like, you know, people put work into. Like I get that, but at the end of the day, like you put this thing on screen that was all about like grooming kids for molestation. I'm gonna take you to task. I'm sorry, you were lazy on this one, guys. Somebody shooting those scenes should have been like, guys, what are we exactly saying here? Like. Oh my God, it was just crazy. Like watching that movie and having the realization that it wasn't a bullshit like hoax to be upset about this thing. It wasn't just a reason for parents to be angry, but like also on top of that to realize that it was still out there and people were still seeing it, and like it was just crazy. Like that movie blew me away in some places. You should all definitely go read the tweets. The only last thing I'll say about it is I'm left wondering what it would have been like if that had been an R-rated film instead of a PG film, if the intended audience had been actually adults, because they could have gone in some really interesting places with it, you know, and like it would have definitely been one of those ones that nobody would have seen. It would have been like Sausage Party, very niche audience, but something that I'm happy exists in the world, right? Like not
My
like I
mind
feel
went
like
to Brothers Grimsby, because if it's an R-rated thing, fucking Will Arnett gets down there on all fours and lets himself get groped along with the dog. And it's like, you really are my best friend, bro.
Well, and that's the other thing. The journey I go on, you should read the tweets, man. The journey I go on trying to figure out if the humans can or cannot understand the dogs. It was the entire film. Up until the very last scene, they had me wondering.
Well then, just as a little happy note, I saw the producers on the big screen tonight, and that was awesome. And if you're listening to this on Monday, June 4th, they're doing it again, Wednesday, June 6th. at
30th
2 and
anniversary?
7. 50th.
Oh my god, I thought it was 50th, but then I thought, no, that's too old.
Yeah, it's the 1968. 50 years. Mel Brooks' first movie.
Jeez.
Still fucking holds up because it's hilarious. It is just hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that I got to go see it in theaters. And it just seems like a nice palate cleanser after talking about Show Dogs. So
Yes.
even if you don't get to see it in theaters, go watch the original producers again. It's great. And now this. I can't believe I finally said that. I've wanted to say it now this for a while. Anywho, if you want to yell at me about stealing from, basically every other show out there, I'm at Devin D. Decker on Twitter.
And I'm at Siege versus the World.
Willie, take me home, country roads.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Stephen Selwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.